Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we unpack your collected insights, articles, research, really digging deep to find those surprising connections.
Yeah, those nuggets of knowledge.
Exactly. And you know how it often seems like different fields are just completely separate? Physics over here, math, somewhere else, ancient texts in their own world.
Right, like islands.
Well, what if they're not? What if they're actually connected underneath, part of some, I don't know, hidden supercontinent of ideas?
That's exactly what today's sources are suggesting. It's a fascinating mix we've got. We're looking at quantum mechanics, chaos theory, and something the sources call scripture theory, all brought together. It's definitely a journey into some mind-bending stuff.
Okay, so our mission today for you listening is to try and unearth these hidden links, these deep patterns, connecting these seemingly, well, totally different realms.
Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, to getting your head around some really big, fascinating ideas.
Yeah, get ready for some aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, this might reshape how you see things a little bit.
Or a lot.
Okay, let's start then. Let's unpack the quantum world, the really unintuitive stuff.
Right, so the absolute fundamental idea in quantum mechanics is, well, everything. Everything around us, even the forces holding things together, it's all made of tiny, discrete packets. Quanta.
Little chunks.
Little chunks, exactly. But here's the kicker, and it's really counterintuitive.
Uh-huh.
Small particles, these quanta, they behave completely differently than large objects. Like apples and oranges doesn't even cover it.
So they're not just a little different.
No. The sources say they're completely different animals. It shatters our everyday experience. Imagine like your keys suddenly tunneling through your pocket.
Okay, right. Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen to keys. But the rules actually change depending on the scale. There's this great comparison in the sources. It's like how the princess began to feel the pea.
Huh. Explain that.
It means a tiny, seemingly insignificant thing at that quantum level has this huge, overwhelming effect on how reality functions down there.
Wow. Okay. And it gets weirder, right? Like the uncertainty principle.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. You fundamentally cannot know both a particle's exact speed and its exact location at the same time.
Not because our tools aren't good enough.
Nope. It's not about measurement limits. It's baked into reality. There's an inherent fuzziness, you could say.
A fundamental fuzziness.
And that fuzziness affects how they move. Think about the famous slot experiment. Particles travel as these chance waves. The Schrödinger wave.
Chance waves.
Yeah. So imagine you shoot one particle towards a barrier with two slits in it. You'd think it goes through one or the other.
Right.
But quantum mechanics says the particle acts like it goes through both slits simultaneously.
Oh.
And then interferes with itself on the other side. It creates a pattern like waves would, as if many particles had gone through.
So the source saying it may interfere with itself, making it seem as if there are more than one particle traveling. That's literally what happened.
That's the math and the experimental results. Also the basis for quantum tunneling.
Ah, right, tunneling, where particles just swim away and reappear somewhere else.
Exactly, without seemingly traveling the space in between. Just pops up, defies common sense, really.
So, okay, individual particles are totally unpredictable, fuzzy, doing this weird self-interference thing.
Right. Chaos at the individual level.
But then the sources say if you get a whole bunch of them together, a large number of particles will display a pattern that is near equal to the initial possibilities of a single particle.
That's the paradox. Individual randomness leads to collective predictability, statistically speaking.
So chaos somehow averages out into order.
In a way, yes. It's one of the beautiful, strange aspects of it all. And zooming out more, you get the standard model.
Right, the big picture of particles and forces.
Yeah, the idea is the universe started in this state of grand unification. Everything was one.
Like a cosmic soup.
Pretty much. Then that symmetry breached. It broke.
Right.
And out came the distinct particles we know, quarks, leptons, bosons, and the four fundamental forces.
Gravity, strong nuclear, electromagnetism, weak nuclear.
Those are the ones. And different particles listen to different forces, which shapes everything. Quarks feel the strong force, electrons feel electromagnetism, and so on.
So, understanding this quantum stuff, it's really the foundation, isn't it? It's the basic rule book for reality, and everything else kind of ripples out from there.
Absolutely. It's fundamental physics. You can't really grasp the big picture without grappling with the weirdness of the very small.
Okay, so we've got this fuzzy, probabilistic foundation with quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
But what happens when that fuzziness scales up, in big, complex systems like, well, the weather?
Yes. That leads us perfectly into chaos theory.
Which the sources say kind of needed quantum mechanics and powerful computers to even come about.
Exactly. It wasn't really conceivable before. And you mentioned Lorentz. His work on weather simulation was key. He found that tiny, almost imperceptible changes in the starting conditions
Led to massively different weather outcomes down the line.
Right.
The butterfly effect.
That's the classic example. So like chaos theory, essentially it's a mathematical field that studies these complex systems. And its main point, nature is incredibly complex and over time, fundamentally unpredictable.
Even if you knew all the starting details.
Well, that's the thing. It connects right back to quantum mechanics. The uncertainty principle means you can't know the initial state with perfect accuracy.
Ah, because of that inherent fuzziness.
Right. The uncertainty principle prohibits accuracy, as the sources state. So if your starting point is inherently a tiny bit fuzzy,
Then predicting where it ends up long-term is impossible.
precisely. That's why weather forecasts get unreliable beyond, say, a week or so. Those tiny initial errors just explode.
Okay, that makes sense. But within the chaos, there are patterns, right? These attractors.
Yes, exactly. Even chaotic systems often tend towards certain states or patterns of behavior. These are the attractors. Some are simple static points, like a pendulum eventually stopping. But others are strange attractors. The system dances around in a complex, non-repeating pattern, but it stays within certain bounds, like that butterfly pattern Lorenz found. It's ordered, but never perfectly predictable.
Right. Bounded, but never repeating. Exactly. Now, here's a concept that really grabs me. Self-similarity.
Ah, yes. This is where it gets really interesting, as the sources say.
It's defined as the repetition of a shape, form, or behavior on different levels of complexity. Not identical copies, though.
No, not identical. More like a variation of the same basic shape or pattern, repeating as you zoom in or out. Think of a coastline on a map.
Yeah, that looks jagged from far away.
And it still looks jagged and complex if
Yeah.
you zoom right in. Same kind of structure, different scale. Or like a fern frond, where each little leaf looks like a miniature version of the whole frond.
Got it. But the sources make a really interesting point about mathematical fractals, like the Cox snowflake.
Yes. They point out that these pure mathematical fractals, beautiful as they are, fail to take quantum fuzziness into consideration, meaning math deals in perfect precision. Numbers are exact. But if reality, at its core, is fuzzy and probabilistic,
Then perfectly precise math can't be the whole story.
exactly. Math can't produce randomness and therefore freedom and therefore a true representation of reality. That's a direct quote. Because reality is fuzzy, our accuracy, even with math, is always an approximation.
Accuracy is approximation.
Wow.
That's quite a statement about the limits of logic itself.
It really is.
So if reality's language is this fuzzy, dynamic, self-similar thing, how does that connect to something totally different, like analyzing texts? Ancient scriptures, maybe.
Well, that's where scripture theory comes into the picture. The sources propose it's sort of two texts what chaos theory is to creation.
Meaning it looks for similar kinds of patterns, but in narratives.
Essentially, yes. Isolating patterns, dynamics, maybe even self-similar structures within texts to understand how they work, how they convey meaning.
Okay. And this connects to ideas about truth and the limits of logic again, doesn't it? Through Gödel's incompleteness theorem.
Right. This is a huge idea from mathematics and logic. Gödel proved, basically, that any logical system complex enough to do arithmetic, well, it can't prove its own consistency from within itself.
So any set of rules, like math, will always have things that are true within that system, but you can't prove them using only those rules.
That's the gist of it. There will always be true statements that are unprovable within the system. It means no axiomatic system can ever prove the consistency of its own axioms and will therefore always remain incomplete.
So no logical system, no matter how brilliant, can ever capture all of truth.
That's the implication the sources draw. They state pretty boldly, no logical system will ever be able to fully present the truth about the universe, and that truth must be singular and it must be bizarre.
Bizarre. And it can't be reached by logic alone.
Truth cannot be reached by logic, they say. It seems to suggest truth requires something beyond pure deduction. Intuition, maybe. Perception.
That's challenging because we rely so much on logic, and we're so good at seeing patterns. Sometimes too good, right?
Absolutely. Our ability to spot patterns is amazing, but as the sources note, it's often as helpful as it is confusing. We can easily project patterns that aren't really there.
Seeing faces in clouds, that kind of thing.
Exactly. The sources make a key distinction. There are patterns projected by the observer. What we impose based on our beliefs or expectations and patterns that emerge from the elements that make them up.
And only the second kind, the emergent ones, are real. They stick around even if we stop looking.
That's the idea. Which leads to another crucial point. Our beliefs are not valid instruments to analyze either reality. We have to doubt our own perspective, our own projections.
So truth isn't found by confirming our beliefs, but by questioning them. Truth can only be noticed when the private perspective is doubted.
Precisely. It's about letting the inherent patterns reveal themselves.
You can kind of see this visually with the Mandelbrot set, can't you?
Absolutely. That famous fractal image looks like a sort of marshmallow man, the sources say.
Yeah. And when you zoom into the intricate edges,
you keep finding smaller versions of that same basic shape, embedded in the texture of the mother image. Infinite detail, infinite complexity, all generated from a very simple mathematical rule, but showing that self-similarity visually.
And this self-similarity concept, the sources apply it even more broadly with something called the household set.
Yes, it's a model they propose where this principle of self-similarity applies across vastly different scales of organization.
Going from
the atom up to the living cell, then the conscious mind, and even to a potential future state they call United People of Planet Earth, or UPPE.
So patterns repeating from the atomic level all the way up to society.
That's the claim. And even more remarkably, they suggest the four fundamental forces, gravity, strong nuclear, electromagnetism, weak nuclear, find self-similar applications at each of these levels.
How so? Like attraction and repulsion aren't just physical forces.
Right. They might manifest as, say, cooperation and competition at the cellular level, or social cohesion and conflict at the human level. The underlying dynamic is seen as self-similar.
Okay, my head is spinning a little, but in a good way. We've gone through quantum fuzziness, chaotic but patterned systems, the limits of logic, and now these repeating patterns across scales.
It's a lot, definitely.
But remember, we started by asking if these separate fields were actually connected. This is where the sources really bring it home, making some incredibly direct, maybe even startling connections based on these ideas, especially self-similarity.
Yeah, the aha moments, as you called them.
Let's start with one of the most striking ones they draw. Connecting the four horsemen of the apocalypse to the fundamental forces of nature.
It sounds jarring at first, doesn't it?
It really does. But the sources lay it out explicitly.
They do. They state, the white horseman, gravity; the red horseman, strong nuclear force; the black horseman, electromagnetism; the green horseman, weak nuclear force.
Just presented as a direct alignment. A self-similar pattern between biblical imagery and physics.
It's presented as an observable congruence, a pattern that emerges when you look at the behavior and dynamics described in both contexts through this lens of self-similarity.
So it's less about literal horses and forces, more about the roles they play, the dynamics they represent.
That seems to be the approach, and the connections don't stop there.
No. What else?
The sources also claim in that the lineage described in the Bible, specifically Abraham's family up to Christ, develops in a way that is nearly identical or self-similar to the standard model of particle physics.
Wait, the family tree mirrors the development of fundamental particles.
That's the assertion. They even say it's highlighted graphically in their material, suggesting a parallel structure, a parallel unfolding in theology and physics.
Wow. Okay, that's bold. And then there's the interpretation of Genesis 1 through what they call chaotic set theory.
Right. This is maybe the most comprehensive framework they propose. The core idea, the prime thesis, is that our world unfolds in three big, overlapping, self-similar stages or periods.
Covering what?
Matter, life, and mind. The evolution of these three realms.
And Genesis 1 fits into this how?
They present Genesis 1 not just as a creation story, but as the meta-narrative of all development, like a blueprint, the scaffold in which the entire universe from beginning to end was created.
A repeating pattern for all development, not just the initial creation week.
Exactly. It's seen as fractal, applying at different scales. They map these three realms, matter, life, mind, directly onto sections of Genesis and beyond.
Okay, break that down for us.
So the matter realm corresponds to Genesis 1 up to chapter 2, verse 4. The creator's name primarily used there is Elohim, and the flood associated with this realm is Genesis 1.2, the spirit moving over the waters, that initial formless chaos.
Okay, matter, then life.
The life realm is linked to Genesis chapter 2 up to chapter 7. The creator's name becomes Yahweh Elohim. It's flood. That's the mist waters the whole ground in Genesis 2.6, representing the conditions for life, perhaps.
And the third realm.
Mind. This spans from Genesis 8 all the way through to Revelation. The Creator's name is given as Dabar Yahweh, often translated as Word of the Lord, and its flood is the big one, Noah's flood.
Representing a clearing away for a new stage of consciousness, mind.
That seems to be the interpretation. A cataclysm leading to a new phase focused on mind, covenant, and ultimately revelation.
Now hold on. The big question with Genesis 1 is always the day thing, the word yom.
Ah, yes. The Yom problem.
Because the sources are quite clear, aren't they? They say yom in Hebrew means day and day alone, a 24-hour day.
They are very clear on that. They don't try to argue it means age or epoch linguistically.
So how does that fit with this grand unfolding fractal pattern theory? It seems contradictory.
The solution they propose lies in a really fundamental principle they say comes from Hebrew scriptures itself, and it's critical to understanding their whole model.
Okay, what's the principle?
It's this. In Hebrew scriptures, and all models derived thereof, entities are reckoned solely after their behavior and not after their appearance. An entity is a behavior, not that which executes the behavior.
Okay. Say that again slowly. An entity is its behavior.
Yes. Think about it. What is love? Is it a feeling, or is it the act of loving, the behavior? What is a king? Is it the person wearing a crown, or the act of ruling justly?
So it's defining things by what they do, not what they look like or are made of.
Exactly. Function over form. Behavior over appearance. An entity is its function.
So how does that solve the yom problem?
It means that day in Genesis 1 might not refer to a period of time measured by the sun, which wasn't even made until day 4 according to the text. Instead, each day represents a specific stage of development, a set of behaviors or functions coming online, an increase in complexity.
So day 1 is the behavior of light separating from darkness, not necessarily 24 hours passing.
That's the idea. It becomes a week of weeks. A pattern of increasing complexity, defined by the actions described, not by literal solar days. The behavior is the day.
That is a really different way of reading it. It shifts the focus entirely. What stands out to you listening to this? How does thinking about things in terms of behavior rather than just appearance change how you might understand these big narratives or even the science we talked about?
It's a profound shift, isn't it? It invites you to look for the underlying dynamics, the functions, the patterns of action, rather than just static descriptions, whether it's a particle, a cell, a person, or a text.
So wrapping this up, we've gone on quite a journey from the quantum world's bizarre rules
Through the unpredictable elegance of chaos.
to finding deep, maybe unexpected patterns in ancient texts.
And the thread connecting it all seems to be this idea of self-similarity, and perhaps even more fundamentally, this focus on behavior over form.
Right. Seeing things not just for what they are, statically, but for what they do, how they function, how they pattern themselves. It seems like a recurring language across these very different domains.
A language suggesting the universe isn't just a collection of separate things, but maybe a dynamic dance of behaviors and forces, repeating similar steps on vastly different scales, from the tiniest particle interactions up to grand narratives.
So here's the thought to leave you with.
Right.
What if the deepest truths, the real connections, are less about what things are and much more about what they do?
And maybe the more important question, what other fields, what other areas of knowledge that seem completely unrelated right now might actually be speaking the same underlying language of behavior and pattern, just waiting for us to tune in and notice?